So, Nietzsche claims, right, from powerlessness, their hatred grows to take on a monstrous and sinister shape, the most cerebral and most poisonous form. The very greatest haters of world history have always been the priests, as have the most ingenious. In comparison with the ingenuity of priestly revenge, all other intelligence scarcely merits consideration. So, not having the physical power to confront the knightly aristocratic class in their own terms, the priestly class, by Nietzsche's account, becomes cleverer and takes as its weapon an intellectual revenge. They don't focus on their own health and vitality, but rather what they do is attack their enemies morally. Right? You may be stronger, you may be tougher, but we're right, we're pure, we're moral, we're just, and you'll get yours. Right? So, whereas the noble morality of the knightly aristocratic class focuses on itself and its own health and vitality, right? Focused by their own weakness in the face of opposition, the priestly class declare all the virtues of their enemies evil. Right? So rather than facing this master morality, this knightly aristocratic morality on its own terms, they just say that everything these guys value is evil, is wicked, is impure. Right? And with enough social force behind it, right, it's quite a clever move. Right? And master morality has no means to confront this kind of hatred, because remember, master morality doesn't hate, it just overpowers, it competes. Right? So, right, Nietzsche claims in a very important passage here, right, the slave revolt in morals begins when resentment, right, itself begins when resentment itself becomes creative and ordains values. The resentment of creatures to whom the real reaction, that of deed, is denied, find compensation in imaginary revenge. While the noble morality grows from a triumphant affirmation of itself, slave morality from the outset says no to an outside, to an other, to a non-self, and this no is its creative act. So, as our principle, right, this is important to understanding Nietzsche, he takes as a principle that passions that do not act outwardly, act inwardly. Right? So, well, this master morality, this knightly aristocratic mode of evaluation, right, affirms itself. Right? And if it doesn't like something, it simply overpowers, it changes the world, it exerts itself to change the situation. This slave or priestly weak kind of morality, with its notions of pure and impure, that's weak and makes use of these fixed ideas, right, rather than just changing the situation, becomes resentful. Right? It's not able to exert its force, exert its power, right, on the world to change the situation. Right? So it creates this whole imaginary sort of revenge. Right? They may be in power right now, but we are pure and they are impure. So ultimately, right, the judgment of God, the judgment of the gods, right, the moral judgment in truth will come down that we're right and they're wrong. And while they may be on top right now, in the end, in the final salvation, right, in the way things will work out ultimately, right, we will get the reward, right, and they will be sentenced to damnation. Right? So nothing master morality can do to this priestly slave morality that cannot act outwardly is quite as bad as the imaginary revenge. the fire, the brimstone, the hell, the eternal damnation, right, of their immortal soul, right? Nothing that the master morality can do to slave morality is nearly as bad as the imaginary revenge that slave morality gets on the master morality, right? And this is where Nietzsche claims that the conflict is lost. So by Nietzsche's argument, the priestly class gave the common, lower, weaker, and plebeian mindset a new orienting set of values that engage from and are fueled by resentment. When people don't feel themselves powerful enough to act and express themselves willfully, the passions that would have been expressed if the power had been present to act outwardly themselves turn inward. The result is what Nietzsche, using the French term, calls resentment. Yes, resentment. All right? While the powerful, noble, aristocratic mode of evaluation affirms itself with the judgment good, the weaker slave morality creates for itself its concept of an evil enemy that must be opposed. Right? And then only as an afterthought, right, claims that it itself is good. Right? So, master morality, by this argument, we see is primarily affirmative. It says, we like power, we like health, we like vitality, we like competition, we like dancing, we like singing, we like all of these things that make us as powerful as we are, as good as what we are. The Olympics, the various competitions, etc., etc., etc. Right? It's primarily affirmative, and only as an afterthought does it say that weakness, sickness, and what have you is bad. Right? Whereas slave morality, feeling themselves subject to the power of master morality and not having the strength to act directly against master morality, right, creates as its orientating worldview, right, the concept of an evil enemy. Right? An evil enemy. Right? The powerful are bad. The healthy are bad, the vital are bad, the competitive are bad, the brutish are bad, etc., etc., etc. Right? So it's no coincidence that everything that master morality called good for the slave morality is not just bad, but evil. Evil. Right? And if we just think about the distinction between these concepts of bad and evil. Right? If something's bad, you just avoid it. Right? You just remove it. You just move away from it. Right? Whereas if something's evil, you must oppose it with every fiber of your being. Right? The evil enemy that must be destroyed. Right? Well, master morality just used a concept of bad. The concept of the evil enemy arises with slave morality. Right? And if we look at the distinction between bad and evil, right, we find them both opposed to the term good, right, but right, diametrically different from one another. Right? Now, the good of slave morality, what was that? Right? We know that their first creative act is the idea of an evil enemy that must be opposed. Right? But what's their good? Right? Well, the priestly class, the slave morality, right, decided into itself, right, that, well, we've got this strong concept of an evil enemy who's powerful, who's vital, who's all of these things, but what's good? Well, it's whoever is as little like the master morality, and as possible, that we will call good. Oh yeah, it's us. Right? So the meek will inherit the earth. Right? You turn the other cheek. You don't confront power for power. Right? What you do is just accept. Right? And in the end, God will get them. God will get them. Right? They will get their own just deserts. Now, what Nietzsche's up to here is a criticism of Christian